Look at the interior of a traditional Catholic cathedral. You'll see sweeping architecture, towering columns, and a vast array of physical religious objects meant to draw the eye upward. Now compare that to a traditional Protestant church. The walls are plain, the space is stripped of ornate artwork, and the focal point is a simple wooden pulpit. Both of these spaces were built by people reading the exact same foundational text, yet their physical approaches to worship look entirely opposed. The reason for this divide comes down to a single question. Is a religious ritual an active mechanism that physically delivers spiritual grace to a person, or is it strictly a symbolic gesture? The visual differences in these rooms stem entirely from opposing views on the mechanics of how human beings interact with God. This is a visualization of the core ritual framework for both traditions. On the left side, the Catholic Church recognizes 7 essential sacraments. On the right, most Protestant churches recognize only 2 ordinances. In the Catholic framework, these 7 rituals act as literal channels of divine grace. They are specific delivery systems designed to actively provide spiritual life and growth to the believer. Some of these channels require a physical intermediary to dispense that grace. During holy orders, a bishop physically lays hands on a man to ordain him as a priest. This delivery system even extends to sanctifying human relationships. Matrimony is elevated to a sacrament, meaning God uses the physical union itself to transmit grace to the couple. Protestant traditions, however, view their 2 rituals, baptism and communion, as ordinances. These are understood as symbolic actions commanded by Christ, rather than literal mechanisms to obtain grace. By eliminating the other 5 rituals, Protestantism systematically removed the physical delivery mechanisms from its theology. To test how these differing mechanics operate in practice, we can look at the single ritual both traditions share: baptism. Catholicism practices infant baptism. The belief here is that the water physically cleanses the soul of original sin and formally opens the path to salvation. Because the water functions as an active conduit of grace, the ritual is mechanically effective regardless of whether the infant is conscious of what is happening. Most Protestant denominations practice believer's baptism, also known as credo baptism. This requires the individual to be old enough to make a conscious, personal decision to follow the faith. In this view, the water holds no salvific power. It serves strictly as a public declaration of an internal faith that the believer has already acquired. Catholicism administers the water as a spiritual medicine to the patient. Protestantism treats the water as a public badge worn by the believer. This differing view on physical conduits extends from the initiation of baptism to the ongoing mechanics of repentance. For Catholics to receive the sacrament of reconciliation, they typically confess their sins to a priest within a physical confession booth. The priest acts as an intermediary, transmitting God's forgiving grace. Protestants operate under the doctrine of the priesthood of all believers. This framework removes the need for an intermediary, arguing that every individual has direct access to confess to God on their own. We see this exact logic applied to everyday items. Catholics utilize physical objects like rosary beads and water blessed by a priest to draw closer to the divine during worship. Protestants avoid using physical mediums to seek blessings. They rely entirely on the immaterial power of unmediated, direct prayer. Catholicism relies on the material world as a necessary bridge to God. Protestantism treats those same physical mediums as unnecessary barriers. When we zoom out and look at the theology built by these 2 sets of roles, distinct structural architectures emerge. This chart shows the Catholic Church dispensing divine grace top-down from God, routed through specific nodes like priests and sacraments. In the Protestant system, these intermediate nodes are removed, creating a direct connection, bypassing physical infrastructure entirely.